Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about making sense of complex rhythms. I'm in one of the lounges in my building. It's like a little co-working space here. So yeah, pretty comfortable, isolated here. And yeah, this was just happening during the week with another student. I guess some of what I'm going to show you was from maybe two lessons ago perhaps, and then one of the examples just happened like literally over this past week. So I'm not going to get into like very complicated counting systems or anything like that. There's going to be some musical terminology used, like I'll talk about like triplets, eighth notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, and so on. But I think honestly the biggest takeaway is the thought process that goes into this. It's not really so much about all of the formal musical terms. I think that if you don't know how to derive these note values, you would need a teacher to help you, but you can still use this general thought process to start to go in the correct direction. Like even if you don't know exactly how things break down, you can try your best to begin breaking things down into smaller and then smaller again sections. And if you do know these note values, then obviously you're going to be able to apply this even more specifically. I don't know if it's like American counting system, but you know what I learned growing up was counting like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for eighth notes, 1 and to 2 and to 3 and to 4 and to for 16th notes, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, etc. for triplets and so on. So you could use, this counting system. You could use other ones, whatever is helpful to you. But sometimes we will encounter rhythms that are, kind of more irregular, that maybe don't even have a very standard way of counting within this system. And I was looking at Rachmaninoff Prelude, Opus 32, number 10, with one of my students during the week. And let me just double check that I have the right thing here. Okay. So I'll just show you on the screen here. So this is like, of course, the very beginning of the piece. So this is kind of what I wrote out here, because this student was having trouble deciphering exactly how this rhythm goes. I'm going to try to kind of like derive this or refigure this out. There is no very standardized way to count this thing that's going on over here, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and erase all of this. Even ignoring all the complexity and everything, I'm going to just first start with just the regular beats themselves. So first of all, we know that this is in 4/4, because this C also means 4/4. I mean, it essentially means there's 4 beats in each measure. And the first thing we want to see is if we can identify where those beats are. Like, where are the 4 beats within the measure? And these would be like the quarter measure set markers that I was talking about in previous videos. So, something's up with the pencil today. I guess we won't have totally perfect shapes, possibly, which is okay. But hopefully I'll be able to fix it up at some point. So anyway, but these would be like the quarter measure set markers, a quarter of a measure plus the following beat. Effectively, it just means from beat to beat. So we've marked these here. And then what I realized is that it's helpful to think of these notes as subdivided into threes, because we have triplets. And basically what all triplets mean is 3 notes that take the place of 2. And we can think of just each one of these beats as being further subdivided into 3 equal parts. So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and mark, I guess I could do it. Maybe I'll create a, I guess before what I was doing was just writing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So maybe I'll do it this way. So I'll just write over here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. in this case, like the 3 matches up with this chord over here. I won't go into like all the specifics in terms of like theory, like why it breaks down this way, but suffice to say that, you know, I realize like this is a 2-to-1 ratio, so I'll write 1, 2 over here, and then a 3, and then I'll write 1, 2, 3 over here. So it's not so important that you understand like every single little aspect of like how does he know where to write the 1, 2, 3, and so on. I think, again, the bigger takeaway is just the overall mode of thinking. Like, we'll start with, like, these parts, split the measure into 4s. Now we're splitting it into, like, 12s, into 12ths. So it's now in 12 equal parts. You can see that visually it even doesn't always seem to, like, directly match. There's a bigger space between the 2 and the 3. But that is where the numbers should roughly be. And then I'm thinking about, okay, let me now split these 12 parts each into 2 equal parts. And I think before I did it with dots, and I guess we can do that this time. So the 1 will split into, the 2 will split into, the 3 will split into, and so there should be, well, there's supposed to be dots, but because of the little bit of glitching that's happening, maybe sometimes it ends up as a bit of a line. Okay, this could probably be a bit further along. I'll see if I can fix it in a moment. Then we got 2 dots here. This one will actually match up right here. And then like this. Okay, so that's basically the way that I've kind of like walked through deciphering this. I first split the, you know, the complicated rhythm into 4 equal parts. Then I split each of the 4 equal parts. I split each of them into 3, so now then we have 12 equal parts denoted by the numbers, and then I split each of them again into 2 equal parts, which results in basically like 24 slices of the pie. And this dot matches up right here, for instance. So, you know, like when we're actually playing this, if we were to turn on the metronome and we were to set it to like this pulse, like it went like this, it would be like da, 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 and then you would end over here. I guess you could say da right over there as well. But, you know, point being that because we've written out the 24 equal parts, the 12 equal parts, you know, the 4 equal parts and so on, we can then practice from, we could set like each of the, you know, yellow dots to like a metronome pulse. We could set each of the numbers to a metronome pulse. So if you're a teacher, I would definitely recommend breaking down a complicated rhythm in a way such as this to the student. If you're a student that understands the note values that I was just showing, obviously you can just directly apply that. And, you know, if you're a student of the piano that honestly isn't at this level, that can't play this piece, I think, again, the bigger takeaway is just to start with splitting the piece into larger parts, then into smaller parts, and then into smaller parts again. And it could be a rhythm that's much less complicated than this. So as opposed to just randomly guessing or doing the very smallest components right from the beginning, even. I think that this is a better approach. And the things that you don't know, of course, you can ask your teacher or other resource that you're consulting. So I'll show you guys one more example that actually came up during the week. And you can see that this looks visually pretty scary. Even I, like looking at this, if I were to sight read this and I just encountered it, you know, I don't think I would be able to just read it right off the bat because it's just so much information to process. I probably just have to make something up and then come back and look at it. The funny thing is, once we deciphered it, it wasn't nearly as complicated as it first seemed. So I think, again, I'm going to just go ahead and erase everything, and then I'll show you how did I derive it. Once more, it's really more about the thought process than understanding like 100% of every single thing that I'm saying. So I look at this and I think, okay, let me try to make sense of all of this. I think this is like a life thing as well, too. You have something that's, pretty overwhelming. Let's go ahead and try to simplify in some way. Let me see if I can fix this and make it work any better. If not, yeah, I think it's fine. I'm just going to work with what it is that I have. So the first thing I'll do is still split this into quarter measure sets first. So that means, if my equipment can just work with me, that we have these here. Man, I'm really not having good luck today. Let's see if I can get things to work any better. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I may even try one or two other things real quick in a moment if this continues, but let's see. But I won't let it stop me. I'm still going to keep going. So these are the, again, quarter measure sets, here. So this, I've already divided the measure into 4 equal parts. Now I'm going to divide it into 8 equal parts by splitting it in half again. So this is basically where the quarter notes are, right? So, oh, you can't even see that. Okay, let me go ahead and test one more time. But many of you probably know what quarter notes are, right? Just black notes with the stem coming out of it. So basically the first thing I've done is just to note where those are. And I think that's going pretty well. And that seems to be going a little bit better. So basically, like, this is the quarter note pulse, right? This is the equivalent of a quarter note all the way from there to there. This is the equivalent of a quarter note all the way from there to there. So that's how it is that I'm trying to split up the music. And then I'm going to now draw the eighth notes. So essentially we have these little spirals that will show each of the eighth note pulses. Okay. So we have this one over here, this one here, this one here. So again, I've tried to divide the measure into 8 equal parts now. And let's see if I can just redraw that real quick. Okay, so now these are the eighth note pulses. Each of these are now matched up. Then I'm going to try, at this point what I did, normally I would split this in half again, and then split it in half again from there in order to decipher the entire rhythm. But I actually tried something a bit, a bit different in this case. I felt like I was more comfortable with actually splitting it into quarters again first, and then going back to the previous step, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So let me see if I can do it. Okay. So I'll try to demonstrate here. So I showed where the eighth notes are. Now I'm going to show where the 32nd notes are. So I'm going to split each of these spirals into 4 equal parts. So that'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4. This one will be 1, 2, 3, and then this is 4. So this actually matches up here. The next one again will be 1, 2, 3, 4. This part will also be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are each matching up here. Let me try to erase this extra stuff that's happening. Okay. And then I'm going to just go ahead and do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one's matching up right over there. Let's see if I can fix this up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these is matching up normally here. Okay. And now from this, now that things have been split into, each of the spirals have been split into 4 equal parts, like over here, and so on, Now I'm going to go ahead and just mark every other one. And this was the idea that I'd come up with, just putting these little arrowheads on every other one. So this will show where the 16th notes are. And this way, like at a glance, I'll be able to see how the entire measure is kind of constructed together. Okay. Oh, I see, I erased one of them by accident. Okay, so then I'll mark this part over here, this part here. I think there should be a yellow line over here as well. Okay, so I've pretty much reconstructed it again. So when we look at this, the blue circles are splitting this measure into quarters, basically, right? Each one of these like from circle to circle is a quarter of a measure. And each of the spirals are splitting the measure into eighths. Each one of the spiral, from spiral to spiral, is an eighth of a measure. The arrowheads really are then splitting everything into sixteenths of a measure, right? From arrowheads to arrowheads. And then each of the yellow vertical lines is splitting the entire measure into 30 seconds of a measure. So, yeah, I think that matches up pretty clearly. And also these represent their corresponding notes as well, too. So these each represent a quarter note. The spirals each represent an eighth note. They each denote an eighth of a measure. The the arrowheads each represent a 16th of a measure, or a 16th note, and then each of these yellow lines represents a 30-second note. So yeah, so that's pretty much the thought process. You want to take something that's overwhelming. Don't try to, like, when I saw this measure, I didn't think to myself, like, let me go ahead and mark all, like, I didn't try to mark all of these symbols right from the beginning. I didn't draw a blue circle and then a purple spiral and then the yellow line and then the arrowheads and then draw a single yellow line there and so on. It's it makes much more logical sense to just take the time, break it into smaller sections, then break it into smaller sections again, and then continue from there. So yeah, hope that thought process was helpful. I think in terms of specific note values, if it's really tricky, you may need to ask a teacher or do a little bit of more learning on your own first. But once you understand the ideas, this would be the way that I carry out the thought process for deciphering complex rhythms. So yeah, if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you'd like to hear about, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time.